entrepreneurs and business owners have been taught we're supposed to pay attention to is that we live in this static world, and our static business is either going to be a good business and be successful, or it's going to fail. And the answer, my response to that is that's a bunch of BS. What happens is your daily choices, what you do every day with that business, what you do every day with your employees, what you do every day, every week, every month, what you're doing consistently. How open are you to pivoting and changing and bobbing and weaving, right? You should be doing that even when times are good, because if you're not operating optimally.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, John. John, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Good to be here. Always having fun with this.
Excellent. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
My name is John Brueger. I own a registered investment advisory and business consulting firm. Kind of an odd mix. Maybe we'll get into why that is. But here in California, I'm primarily, I call myself a business coach and a wealth coach for business owners and entrepreneurs. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been at, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 businesses that I've created over the years. Some have been wonderfully successful. Others have been wonderful learning experiences. But all along the way, I try to remember what I'm doing. And I think the big thing that I do and bring to the table that a lot of folks in my space may not be great at is I understand the finances. I'm a finance nerd and I'm a certified financial planner professional, but I also understand that most people don't live in that space. And I'm pretty good about communicating with clients about what's going on here. What are these numbers actually telling you that is actionable for you, so you don't have to spend all of your life and energy trying to figure out stuff that may not be your wheelhouse.
Nice. I love it. So it has always been kind of a fascination to me that people want to make money in their business, but they don't know how to deal with money in their business. So it's like, well, so we will touch on those and what the difference is there, what people need to know. But let's kind of back up the bus a little bit, okay, and talk about how did you get into kind of the financing of things and the business coaching and the strategies? Because I do find it as a fascinating triplicate of choice, if you will.
Yeah. So, it's an evolution, right? Everything in life kind of evolves. I actually, out of college, I was an economics major in college, and out of college, I spent 12 years in radio broadcasting, and I really had a lot of fun with that. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't pay very well. And I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I actually created a couple of small businesses before I even got out of college. And so as time's progressing and I'm realizing that my professionally chosen career wasn't really resonating with the bank book all that much. And I was in a position where a job that I was at, a radio station I was at, was selling out, and I knew I was going to be out of a job. I said, well, what can we do here? At that point, I'd met my wife. We were living here in Central California. And I said, well, I always wanted to own a business. And so I started looking around for businesses to buy and manage. And we ended up buying a small retail picture framer, custom picture framing store, and was really successful with that. One store turned into 2 within a year. Revenues were climbing nicely. It was really great fun. And I was getting to exercise all the principles that I'd learned over the years. And when you're a business owner, you kind of hang out with other business owners. It is what it is. And so we would be sitting around on Friday mornings having coffee and donuts, and they keep asking me these questions. Well, John, what do you do in this situation? Or what are you doing in that situation? And after about a year and a half or 2 years of doing this and giving it away for free, maybe I should be charging for this. So the next step of that, and this is talking about just before the turn of the century, I started actually putting a shingle out and providing business consulting services. And established the ALTUS brand at that point. And then that just continued to evolve. I had a financial planner came in my office one day and wanted to sell me on becoming my financial planner. And what I liked about it was what he was communicating. And again, this is my wheelhouse, is taking financial information and actually having it make sense to other people. It's like, wait a minute, I could do that. I don't want you to be my planner, but I could do that. And it would be really great for my business coaching clients, right? Here we have business owners and entrepreneurs. They've got a boatload of money running through their fingers and they have no idea what to do with it or how to manage it and how to make it work for them. So then that was the foray into certified financial planner. I did the studies for that, got the certification in 2005, and have just continued to evolve my practice, going back and forth between personal financial planning and business coaching and business consulting. But it's really the business coaching that I love the most. I just, I'm an entrepreneur. I resonate with other entrepreneurs and business owners. We have fun together. I just like spending time with them. And if I'm going to select my clients, that's who I want to spend my time with. And then providing them whatever services that I have in my wheelhouse. And those are financial analytics, kind of like a fractional CFO or financial planning and analysis for small businesses, as well as personal financial planning for those business owners. Because if they were to go to a regular financial planner and that person's going to be saying, well, put your money in stocks and bonds, most business owners, almost all their wealth is in their business. So we want to make sure we're not just telling them to do something that's not in your wheelhouse. Do this. Let's make that business be a really profitable venture for you. So that's the evolution of it.
Nice. I love it. And we will definitely talk about the investment side of things once you've acquired that wealth. But in the meanwhile, what kind of numbers are important to you in a business that every entrepreneur should kind of know or understand, have their thumb on the pulse of, in order to be able to create a more successful business?
So most important, and whether it's business or actually in personal life, the most important numbers to keep in mind are cash flow, right? Money coming in, money going out. Ideally, more money coming in than is going out. Because if you go in the other direction, whatever you have doesn't last very long, right? It's just right. So, and it's really simple, right? So money coming in versus money going out. Ideally, we want to be looking at trends over the last several months, trends year over year for the same time period, whether that's gross sales, whether that's profitability, whether that is and those are probably the two biggest metrics and the easiest to track, right? No matter what you're doing, you kind of know how much money you're spending, you know how much money you're bringing in. We want the sales to be increasing, and ideally, more of every one of those dollars should be going into something, at least getting past the first round of expenses, so it can either be used to be invested back into the business or be used just to support the owner, because after all, that's one of the reasons why you own the business. And honestly, I mean, there's lots of other things you could pay attention to, but if you have a mechanism by which you're looking at those numbers on a regular basis in a framework that is non-punitive, that is no pain, no shame, no sacrifice, no good, bad paradigm, get rid of all that stuff. Just say, hey, you know what? Are these numbers moving in the right direction, or are they kind of going the wrong way? And if they're going the wrong way, why? What is it that's causing us to have a decrease in our sales? What is it that's causing a decrease in our profitability? And then start addressing those issues. But that's the metric. If that dashboard's in front of you and you're looking at it every day, it starts to make sense as far as, I made these decisions and this is happening. Or I made these decisions and that's not so good thing is happening.
And most of us have, I would hope, have a pretty easy time saying, okay, the market's changed, the season's shifted, depending on the occupation somebody has, right? Obviously, if they're into landscaping, they're going to have booms in the summer. And if they're, if they decide to go into snow removal, then, obviously more profitable in the northern areas rather than Florida.
Yeah.
Like their seasonal work, we go, okay, it's seasonal work. At what point does somebody that has maybe seasonal work need to look at, okay, the trends aren't just kind of month to month, because that's not going to give you the reading you need. And year to year is probably not giving you enough variance, I want to say, to go, do I have any month left at the end of the money kind of thing, or any year left at the end of the money? What other things can they be looking at to go, okay, how do we kind of even out the numbers and distribute them so that we're comparing apples to apples and not just kind of wondering whether or not there's enough at the end of the year.
So I like shorter periods, but on a year over year basis. So
Mm-hmm.
last 3 months, right? Or let's just say yeah. So the last 3 months. So the month ending in April, since that's the last month we had that ended, the previous 3 months. So it's February, March, and April. How does that
Mm-hmm.
look compared to February, March, and April of last year? And if you have 2 years, compared to February, March, and April of the year before, because those year over year numbers are going to give you a much better sense of, from a long term standpoint, whether or not what you're doing is working. And you can start to identify other fissures. Month over month still is going to give you some sense of it. And you can even dial those numbers in based on, well, instead of exactly 8 point whatever percent of it is per month is of revenue, this month is always 15% of annual revenue is always in this month. How did I do? How are we doing with that? Is that, and you can adjust those numbers fairly easily so that what you're looking at is a more balanced picture of it. In the economic world, they have all kinds of ways of adjusting or weighting monthly data. And I tend to even get even more granular than that. Sometimes I just like to look at weekly data over the same time period, especially in, you can always say, well, I'm a gardener and this year we had rain in April and last year we didn't. But I really tend to find that it's just more paying attention to it rather than what I see a lot of folks do is they go, it's too complicated, I can't track it, or it feels punitive, or I feel like I'm bad because my numbers aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and my KPIs, and everybody says you're supposed to pay attention to this, right? Just get off that high hat and let's just kind of start thinking about, your business, you know it better than anybody, and then have somebody help you and coach you just to ask you the right questions. So you're starting to ask yourself the right questions. And those questions almost never are good, bad paradigm. It's more like, do I want to make an adjustment? Do I feel like an adjustment really needs to be made here? And I'm starting to get data rather than just like, gosh, it feels really bad right now. Why? Why does it feel really bad? Get some numbers and data that sort of back that up. And if the numbers are saying everything's good and you feel bad, maybe there's something psychological going on there that you might want to be paying attention to.
So what kind of companies, let's say the last 3 years, that wouldn't just go, oh yeah, we were in a lockdown. Oh yeah, it opened up. Oh yeah, it like,
sure.
Are there really any companies that can look over the last 3 years and not just go, that's why? And actually have to look at the numbers and go, okay, so how many people had we hired? What were the profitabilities? What were delivery charges? Like there's been such mayhem. I would think that has contributed to more of there's no point in looking at the numbers because it was mayhem as opposed to, it's, how am I going to tell the difference?
So my perspective on that is that mayhem, while it was definitely more pronounced in the last 3 years, always exists.
Previous to that, okay, I'm with you.
All right, so and this is I think one of the fallacies of business ownership that even entrepreneurs and business owners have been taught we're supposed to pay attention to is that we live in this static world and our static business is either going to be a good business and be successful or it's going to fail. And the answer, my response to that is that's a bunch of BS. What happens is your daily choices, what you do every day with that business, what you do every day with your employees, what you do every day, every week, every month, what you're doing consistently, how open are you to pivoting and changing and bobbing and weaving, right? You should be doing that even when times are good, because if you're not operating optimally. You can go from when the what is it they say, the rising tide floats all boats, right?
Yep.
So if you're in a market where the economy is humming along and we're seeing GDP growth of 5 and 6%, like that's going to happen sometime in the next 30 years, I don't think. But even if it was happening,
it will.
Yep. Yeah, we can always hope. And I actually have a sidebar on that one too. But even if you're in a great environment, it doesn't mean you can't take advantage of that environment even more so. And right. And I think
Yeah.
that's the fallacy that we've been, well, it was a good, there were good times. So that's why we did good. All right,
Mhm.
fine. You should have done better. Sure. But did you do everything you could have done that could have made it even better? And so this is the thing, and I have clients right now. We're talking right now about there's going to be an economic slowdown, and that's the kindest way I can phrase it.
Put it.
My
Okay, so
anticipation.
let's assume that somebody's in a kind of boom time right now, and there's also another fascinating paramount that we think that as soon as there's a boom, it's always going to be this way. And
Oh yeah,
like, okay, that there's a reason that it's called, boom and bust and bear and bull markets because they exist. So what can somebody do during a bull market? So say their business is booming, everything is going in the right direction, everything's open up, yay, people are spending again, yay, this is awesome. What can I look at in my business to go, okay, let's assume this lasts a year, what changes would I make? Assume this lasts 6 months, what changes would I make? What kind of things should they be looking at if they're going to do that kind of analysis on the
so,
business in order to prepare for those?
sure. I think it's a question that they should ask, and the question they should be asking of themselves is, if the economy were to take a major dump,
Mhm.
how should I respond? What would be a good, effective response to that? What opportunities would be taking place in that?
Mhm.
And I think we're probably 6 months out before we'll have whatever recession starting that we're going to have. And that's just based on some economic analysis. And it may be even longer than that. This is the most anticipated recession that we so far haven't had yet.
Exactly.
But
I'm kind of liking that.
but we know it's coming, and
Yeah.
I look at the data, and to me, it's just like, no, it's coming. It's just you want to be ready for it. So, in the event that the economy does go the other direction, and part of it is just that and realization. Hey, look, it looks great right now. Everything feels wonderful, and I know you're really busy, and I know you have all these other things that are clawing for your attention, and it just you still got to step back and be strategic and intentional about what does the next year look like? What's the next 3 years going to look like? How would I manage a risk if it were to happen? And
Mhm.
even if it never happens, knowing how you would manage it is way different than going really, really nilly through the next 3 years, and just hoping and whatever hits me in the face, I guess I'll figure it out, right? The
Mhm.
strategic and intentional behavior, and then going back to the business and saying, every day, what can we do every day that cements the highest probability that we will be ready for whatever could happen going
Mhm.
forward?
And are there any areas that you find particularly of benefit to look at, whether it's, hey, we want to focus on marketing and really make sure that that's honed in on, or is it sales, or is it operations, or is it cutting expenses? Is there kind of um, is there a place that typically has the most opportunity, or does it totally depend on the business and the owner?
It kind of depends on the business and the owner. I think there's some things that are more important to be thinking about doing now just because of the lag times associated with them. And especially think about marketing, right?
Mhm.
So I think folks believe that if I do some advertising for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and I throw a bunch of money at it, I'm going to have all of a sudden have a lot of business. And it doesn't work that way, right? We all know that we build a name for ourselves. Uh, we build our marketing presence over months, years, right? So the time to start planting the seeds so your marketing can be successful, even coming out of a recession 2 years from now, the time to plant those seeds is now. The time
Mhm.
to be communicating with people, even about what you're doing, is now. And building what does that strategy look like so it's already functioning. So I think that's one that one should do sooner than later, especially in anticipation for a recession, because you're going to want to be putting messages out that are counter to all the messages that everybody's getting when it's recessionary, right? And if you're joining in the chorus of "woe is me, woe is us," right? Everything sucks. They're not going to come buy from you. They're right. But if you're out there all of a sudden you're so far ahead of the curve. You're going, yeah, we knew this was coming, and we've got some really great things that are wonderful opportunities for you now. That things are sucky, even construction or whatever. Hey, we're available. I've got construction crews that are getting ready to say, one of the advantages to being where we are right now, you call us up, we'll be there. We'll be able to start the job on Monday and have it done for you by Thursday. How about that? There will always be a market for that. And it's just changing the narrative relative to and in anticipation of what's coming down the pipe, as opposed to reacting to what already happened, last week, last month, or whatever.
Nice. I love that. Well, and I do think it's prudently important to be able to get another opinion on things and be able to see the opportunity that lies ahead. Because regardless of whether or not it's a bull or bear market, if you want to put it that way, there's always opportunity. There has to be. It's the way it works.
I know.
And it's really hard to see sometimes in your own.
I know, and I've created, as I said, I've done a number of businesses, and I've created businesses that succeeded. That picture framing business, I bought it in 1993, and we were in the midst of a really not very good recession here in California over the next couple of years, and I cut my teeth in that, and we went from one store to two stores by 1994. So you can do it. Every business can either succeed or fail in whatever environment they're in. It's just whether or not they choose to do that. Yes, tough environments make it more difficult to succeed. Easy environments make it a lot easier for anybody, no matter how sheer dumb luck it is, to be successful. But are they really successful? Are they really putting their thinking caps on? Are they really good business owners? I tend to say, all right, well, yeah, you got the rising tide. Wonderful for you. Now what are you really going to do with it?
If everybody else is going up by 25% and you're only going up by 15, look at why that is.
But I'm successful. I'm making 15% every year. This is great. We're growing like a weed. Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. I love it. So when it comes to your business, what would you say is your favorite part of your business?
Working with people, working with the clients. We get occasional aha moments where it's like, I'll drop a seed. They probably won't respond to the seed that I've dropped. And then 3-4 weeks later, or 2 or 3 meetings later, all of a sudden they're saying, well, I was thinking I really should go back and look at what our marketing narrative is. What is our message right now? What are we saying? It's like, I'm pretty sure I have it in my notes that I talked about that about 2 months ago, but that's okay. I like the subtlety of providing guidance, providing coaching, encouraging people to be the best that they can be, and watching them blossom and own it, their successes. It's like, I don't ever want somebody to thank me for what I do, because I get all the thanks when they do what's in their best interest.
I love it. So can you give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients?
Wow, that's a tough question. Cinderella story, without releasing too much information, too.
We'll call her Bob.
Call her Bob.
I don't need all the details.
Yeah, so I think give me a second to wind that one up in my brain, because I have several that have been meaningfully successful over long periods of time, and those we just came out of the box things don't always happen as kindly, or Cinderella story, but being in the right place at the right time. I had a dentist that was really methodical about what their process was, but they were not very methodical about telling people about what that process was and what was different about it and how that would make them be more successful. And we spend a lot of time talking about their narrative. I call it a marketing message makeover, and finding keywords where the experience that this person was creating was incredible. And he just did it because that was the kind of guy he was. He just said, I don't like the experience that dentists have. And I can really relate to that, right? Most of the time you'd go to the dentist, it's like, I don't want to go unless I absolutely cannot sleep without going to see
Aw.
them, right? So, but his experience was you're going to come in, it's just going to be a completely different experience from start to finish. How you're greeted, every little thing was thought through and done in a way and delivered in a way that you might almost expect from a Nordstrom's. And that was one of the things we talked about. It's like, you have like the Nordstrom's approach to dental practice and teaching and helping your clients. And he said, oh, I just can't stand the way that people do it. It's like, great. So let's communicate that. And his business was growing. He was doing fine. And he would get people would come in and they would stay, right? And then they would tell their friends. But it was growing. It was naturally, organically growing. But I don't think it was beating whatever the market was at the time in that economy. And so I just kept driving in. It's like, really, really focus on what you're saying to people, when you're saying it, and how you're saying it. And some kind of light bulb went off a few months after we were having that. And he tried a couple of different marketing techniques. And one day, I'll never forget, he comes into, we're having our meeting. In those days, he actually came into my office and we're having the meeting. And he goes, I never realized how much people actually pay attention when you're doing marketing, when you're talking to them. I had this person came in and they were practically crying and they hadn't even gotten into the chair. It was just such a wonderful experience. And they had been in such pain for all this time in their lives. And it's basically because they were ignoring it. And they came in, they really appreciated, I can't remember her name, like Sheila, who was the front office person who was really the trigger for it. And he goes, and it was just like, it was such a different approach to me. And it was like, and at the end, she gave me a hug. And this guy is not the kind of guy that he's like she gave me a hug, and I didn't know what to do with it. But it was just really wonderful to see that. And then the business just went pop. And he was within months, he's like, I need to open another place. I need to get a whole another round of people. And then we were talking about, well, how do you replicate that, right? You have one office, you got one person who's doing it. How do you do it again? How do you consistently do that in multiple locations? Which was even more fun than just helping him to get over himself and get beyond and realize what he had already brought to the table. And I just didn't think he knew it. I just think he did it because it served him. And I think that's what a lot of business owners do. It's like, why do we create the business? Well, we create the business to solve one of our problems. And then we find out other people have the problem, so then we share it. But that was all he did. He's just created because he hated what the dental industry had created in the way of an experience, and he created one that he liked. And then he just didn't tell anybody else about it for the longest time.
I love it.
You got
So
to get it.
what are some of the stumbling blocks that somebody might be having in their business right now? And they're thinking, oh my God, John, I need you to come in here and help me with this.
Well, I think the biggest stumbling block everybody has is bandwidth, especially when you're a business owner, right? You've just been pulled in so many directions, and you're trying to understand things that may not be in your wheelhouse, but you know you have to understand them. And I think it's knowing where the resources are to find the answers that you're looking for, and do so in a way that you don't waste huge amounts of time listening to 15 different approaches to something and then saying, well, I think my approach is going to be this, but it's an uninformed decision because you just basically heard 15 different inputs. And those people are all really good, but they may have something to sell. They may be trying to get you onto a program that they do versus somebody else does. And this is the hard thing, because basically that's what I'm doing too, right? I'm talking about, well, I have my program and this is what it is. But I try to communicate with clients is that what I'm here to do is to help you parse through all that and try to figure out which things you want to pay attention to, which ones you can delegate to someone else to pay attention to, and which things aren't really important to pay attention to. And we're just going to put them off into a box and just make sure that we're monitoring them for in case there's a fire comes up out of that.
I love it. And it's so true. It becomes when people try to find the answers they're looking for and they're doing that, they often stay on a shallow level and they become more confused than resolved
Yes,
because of
that's
it.
true.
So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start their journey with you?
The best place would be the website. It's Altus Wealth. That's ALTUS. It's a Latin word, means view from above. AltusWealth.com. That's the best one for right now. We have a couple of other websites. We're reconfiguring the work that I do and trying to really go back and refocus on the business coaching. As I said, another aspect of being an entrepreneur is that I tend to be easily distracted. Uh, so it's like squirrel,
What? No way.
squirrel. Ooh, this sounds like fun. Let's go that way. And because of that, I move back and forth between the three primary things that I do: investment management, personal financial planning, and business coaching. And as such, my website is sort of a hodgepodge of all these things. So we're working right now on clarifying my narrative and making sure that the people who want to find me for this particular aspect of it have a place that they can go. But right now, start at altuswealth.com. Feel free to schedule a 15-minute free consult. You can do it right from the website. Just peer around. You get a good sense of my approach to a lot of different kinds of issues, but they're all built on finance. And yeah, and more materials, contents being put up there over the next several months as we're reinvigorating the focus of what I'm trying to get out there.
Nice. I love it. Well, and as I promised earlier, I would discuss the once you've made money in your business
Mhm.
and keeping it and investing it, then do you work with people on that aspect as well?
Oh yeah, sure. And especially business owners and entrepreneurs, the first thing we're going to look at is there a way for you to invest in your business that's going to get you a better rate of return than you could get anywhere else? Why? Because you know that space better than anybody, and it is potentially possible. Look, in a really good stock market, and by the way, in the stock market, you have no control, right? It could be a good market, it could be a bad market. It's the rising tide or the falling tide, right? It's
That could
sheer
apply
dumb
to
luck,
today. That could apply to tomorrow.
right? It's just sheer dumb luck. And
Right.
if you capture the stock market with a well diversified portfolio at a trough and it goes up from there for 10, 15 years as it did in 2009, 10, you're going to think you're a brilliant investor. The truth is, you just happened to get on the wave at the right time. If you had gotten on that wave in, let's say, late 2006, early 2007, or maybe December of 2021, right before
When
this last
everybody's
year,
screaming, buy, buy,
bye
buy.
bye, right? And if you got on that one and then you ride the roller coaster down, you're going to say, I'm a really stupid investor. And really, all you are is you just got on the ride at the wrong time,
Okay.
right? So, and I tend to find your business, when you invest in it intelligently and strategically, has a much higher probability of delivering a much higher rate of return for that investment than some kind of portfolio or stock. Now, that said, having all your eggs in one basket, not such a great idea either. So there is some diversification. We want to make sure that it gets covered. And along those lines, that is where the area that like the investment management work that I do, and the work that I do is associated with when the markets are doing well, we're going to ride that. Tactically, we're just going to look like a regular old buy and hold investment manager. But when the markets are not doing well, as they did in 2022, we're not going to be holding stocks just because that's what everybody says you're supposed to do. Buy and hold for the future. It's like, yes, but the math actually says that buy and hold for the future is better than being tactical as long as you have at least 30 years that you can stay holding. 30 years. If you only have 12 years right now, the math would suggest the likelihood, if you do a buy and hold right now, you're going to get a 0% rate of return on a well-balanced portfolio over the next 12 years. That's before inflation.
Yahoo! And on that happy note, give us your website again and how
Yeah,
people can
sure.
get a hold of you.
So my website again is Altus Wealth, ALTUS Wealth.com. And seriously, that's the best way to start. All the connections are there. You can set up a consult. Their phone number is there. You can send me an email. I just said, go to the website, check it out. It's me.
Nice. Love it. So I get to ask you, at what point in life did you know that you're especially kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Oh, well, so I was an entrepreneur. My first business was I was 15, 16.
Yep.
But the first time I actually believed that I wanted to go out and do it was that time in 1993. So that was when I was in my early 30s. It's like, no, I can do this. I'm willing to jump off the cliff and just rely on myself and not have a W-2 job, much to my wife's chagrin.
I love it. John, you've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
Pay attention, try to pay attention to whatever it is you're doing. Be strategic and intentional. I strongly believe that thinking about things in advance is really helpful. Whether you do it with me or you do it with another professional, it always is nice to have somebody to sound some of this stuff off of. That third party perspective is really helpful. But the most important thing is be kind to yourself, believe in yourself, and if you're paying attention, do so in a way that doesn't make you feel bad about paying attention, because it's the paying attention that matters.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
Take care.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention. You do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap. They offer full implementation as well, if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.